Hey,
Hello. How you doing?
how's it going? So good. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing all
You look
right.
cute. I like your top. You always have a new top.
So do you.
Um,
Um, I have like daughters, and my husband picks out a lot.
I love it. I love it. I just need to go like shopping more.
Yeah, I
Uh,
honestly, I like hardly ever go shopping for myself.
yeah. But you don't
It's
have to
like,
apparently.
I guess not, because
Yeah. You
anyway,
could just steal
I
their
can.
clothes or whatever.
This one was like a hand-me-down from my daughter's friend,
Nice.
so that works.
All right. I need to find a way to get some
So,
hand-me-downs.
all right, I'll send you some.
Yeah.
Plenty, we have plenty. But anyways, so how's life?
Like,
You
let's
had
see.
work today?
Yeah, I did. I had to make up.
Yeah.
I had to leave one day and we had to reschedule patients. So I felt bad because we're so backlogged with patients because that's just
'Cause
life right now.
people like
Yeah.
their teeth.
Well, yeah. And like, I mean, I've told you about it before, how there's just like there's more people that need than there are to like service, I think, sometimes in this area that we live
Yeah.
in. Maybe that's an everywhere thing.
Yeah, for
So
real.
it's good to be busy, but it's also like okay, like we can't fit everybody in. And the people who are getting in are just those who are lucky enough to like, have insurance and stuff like that. Most people just go without care. And so it's like,
Yeah.
those
So
type of
that's a
things that go through
podcast
my
we need to
mind.
have.
It really
Yeah.
is because I want to talk about just like personal accountability and how I think we could as a people, like so many of the things that we need that like we're asking from like the government and like saying, hey, like what I want you to pay for like education with the tax dollars, and I want you to pay for, like these things to be there for them. But like we just have to imagine that we're not going to have like always have healthcare available to us, and we're not going to always have the dentist available to us because so many people already don't. That if we just started like really truly teaching people and trying to get them to take accountability for things like just simply brushing your teeth every day, flossing your teeth every day, but
Preventative care.
yeah, but, like, taking it seriously, like, we don't even need a like, the dental field could be for emergencies, and you know what I mean? Versus, like,
Hmm.
sometimes I really feel like I feel ba like, it's like herding cattle. That sounds like the worst thing ever, but, like, I live in an older community, and so it's a lot of older people, and they're going from, like, the dentist to the doctor for, like for, like, the high blood pressure and the cholesterol that
Yeah.
everybody has, and it's like, is every country like this, or have we just lost a sense of personal accountability, and we just go from our appointment to appointment to, like, keep us going versus just like, "Dude, our food sucks," or like, so many things suck. It's like, how can we take more personal accountability, you know?
Yeah. Good, good question.
I mean,
It does feel like we've lost something. Like
yeah,
we're so dependent on somebody else to take care of us that we just
yeah, and,
shift
like
responsibility.
and I am like I said, like, if we're gonna have a government, I would that's what I would like for it to do, is to, like, us pay into taxes and then, like, take care of those essentials, but, like, you can't guarantee that, you know what I mean? Because the taxes and everything are used in a lot of other ways. We put a lot into military because for some reason we're also unevolved that we still fight like animals instead of just like, I don't know, being fucking humans who treat everybody else like humans, which
Well,
totally segues us to today's topic.
that's true, it does, huh? Also, welcome back to the little white picket fence. And yeah, so I guess my one of my daughters was talking to me about Andrew Tate, and then his
Mhm.
name came up like 4 or 5 times, which bothers me on a lot of levels.
I mentioned him in the last episode,
You
actually. That
did,
was the
you
name
did.
I
I
was
noticed
trying
that.
to say. I couldn't remember exactly, like, who it was. But anyway, so yeah, that was what I was
I have a lot of
referencing
opinions
then.
on him in the brief
Okay.
time that I have, because on the last podcast I had no idea who he was, and um, now I've watched a few videos,
Yeah.
and he's allowed to be whoever he wants to be, but I kind of wish I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, there's
Whatever.
what I've heard of him is that he has a very large following of young men, which is
Mhm.
kind of scary because that means, you know, they're listening to him and take value out of everything that he's saying. And like I'm gonna share a clip with you in a little bit because it's like it's just one that I feel like I have to show you to then like talk about. I don't know, just because
Uh-huh.
if I tried to sum it up, I would just royally fuck it up probably. Um,
That's all
um,
right. What's your general feel on this guy? What's your
my general feel is that I do think he's really smart. I think he's
Mhm.
really smart, and some of the things that I heard in the video I'm gonna share with you, like, I was like, I see, like, I don't know, I see where he's coming from, but I also see it from a different lens
Mhm.
and just feel like he's not taking into account the lens of a woman who really truly has, like, freedom and
So much
bodily autonomy, you
generalization.
know, yeah, so
So much generalization.
but
Well,
I also am terrified of him because there are so many people listening to him, and one of the things that,
Mhm.
like, I actually would have brought him up earlier to talk about just because 'cause I'd heard about him, and it was like, "Oh, that's kinda, like that's crazy," because I thought we were beyond like, evolved beyond certain things
Mhm.
that I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's" like, I didn't think that was something I was gonna have to worry about again. I thought women's movement, to a certain extent, like, got us somewhere, but you gotta
Yeah,
he
but
feels
then
like
you've
he
got guys
takes
like
us
this.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's I have always had a problem with guys like this. Um, and most of the time they are very intelligent. They can be very book smart. Their brains work certain ways. Um, I think the first time I ever like clicked with a guy acting like this was at a party at my parents' house. There was a guy that was sitting at the counter with me, and I was talking to him, and um, he just looks at me and he goes, "Hey, watch how well I have my wife trained." And he holds out his hand, and his wife brings him food, and I was like, "Oh, that's fucked up." Like
oh,
that's
like,
that's messed up. Um,
even if he meant it from a place of I don't know, like it was a
and no,
cutesy thing or something, it's like
yeah, yeah.
he had control of her.
Well, he had control of her, but he also missed the whole point. She wasn't bringing it to him because he snapped and she was like, "Oh, I gotta bring it to him." She was watching, she noticed that he was hungry and she brought him food. It came from a place of love.
Yes.
And instead of being like, "Oh man, I'm the luckiest guy in the whole world," he's like, "I've created this." Like,
Yeah,
you miss the whole dang point. And if you miss that
seriously.
part of life, you're missing out on all of it.
Yeah. So
I
I feel
mean,
like I mean, I don't know if you know who this is, Lisa, so I feel like we should show the I'm gonna send you a video and then I'll splice it in here, okay? So watch
okay,
it and then let's come back and talk about it. Okay? And I'll call you right
okay,
back and I'll send it
okay.
to you. Okay.
Islam fixes a lot of the problems that men are currently facing. The
Yeah.
problems we're discussing on this show, Islam fixes all of them, right? That's the first thing about Islam. And I'm not a Muslim, right? If I had to choose a religion, I would, because I live in an Orthodox Christian country, I go to the Orthodox Christian church. I donate $20,000 a month to the church in the country I live in. The church in Romania is very powerful, and I like having church friends. So I give them a lot of money, right? So I would guess I'm an Orthodox Christian. But if I had to bet on one religion as if I were betting on the stock market for the future, you have to bet on Islam. Because Muslims are intolerant. And I'm not saying that disrespectfully, because if you're tolerant of everything, then you stand for nothing.
Yeah.
Facts.
Christians are so tolerant now. You don't believe it. They have gay pastors that I'm not even anti-gay, but if the book says don't have, like, what do you believe in now? If you're tolerant of everything, you stand for nothing. I can walk through London with a t-shirt saying Jesus is gay and nothing will happen to me. If I did the same thing with the Islamic prophet, I'd be dead before I got to the end of the street.
Boom.
That's how much they believe and respect. And I respect people who stick up for what they believe in.
Yeah.
It's not even about me believing in it. I respect them because they believe and they will defend. Muslims are the only people who will defend their religion. They will defend their beliefs. They refuse to be mocked. They refuse to be insulted. And I respect that about them. I respect that. That's an amazing thing about them, right? And the third point is, and I've been all around the world, some of the best countries in the world today are the first world Muslim nations.
Yeah.
Qatar, you can go to Qatar, you can fall asleep with $1 million on your lap in the middle of the street. Nothing's going to happen to you.
Saudi Arabia as
you
well.
You can go to Saudi, nothing will happen to you. You can go to Dubai, UAE, nothing's going to happen to you.
They leave their cars parked with the keys inside.
It's so safe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
It's so safe. Women, everyone's married. Every woman obeys her husband. Every single woman has 4, 5, 6 kids. Big families. All the things we're talking about, all the problems we have here, right? They've got none of that. None of it. Because of Islam. Islam keeps society in the role where women obey their man. Women have children. Women have big families. Women are exceptionally happy to do so.
Yes.
Before some Western girl comes in here and runs her mouth, the Islamic women are happier than any you're going to see in the club tonight.
They're very true.
They're happy. Society is functioning. Their population is growing because in most Western countries, the population is declining.
Yep. Tim Cass was talking about it today. I was talking. We were
2
showed it on
people
the
have
boat.
1 kid. Doesn't work. Doesn't work, right? 2 people need to have 3.1 kids because people die, right? People die prematurely, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So we have population problems in the West. They have none of the population problems. Society is functioning. And that's what society is. Society starts at the smallest possible group. You have families, and families make a street, and that street makes a village, and that village makes a town, that town makes a city, and that city makes a country. So if it's broken at the very fundamental level, if its family level's broken, then it's broken the whole way up.
Yep.
And that's what's happened in the West. And the first world Islamic countries have none of those problems. So if you're going to talk about a belief system that fixes issues, you need to go to Islam.
And I will say this
that will fix everything. But I just have absolute, even though I wouldn't identify as Muslim, I have absolute respect for the ideology, respect for the mentality, respect for the warrior aspect of it. I respect it.
They don't play.
They don't play. You can't insult their shit. But you can insult the church all day. You can make fun of it. There's a show on Netflix about a gay Jesus. That's a joke, right? Ha, ha, ha. And what do the Christians do? Nothing.
Yeah.
Christianity is a dead religion. If you're a Christian, and I'm saying this as a Christian myself, Christianity is a dead religion which is confined to the history books. It's dying out.
Hello.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah. Does it make you like a little sick to your stomach?
It makes me a lot sick to my stomach.
Yeah. Like I actually feel like it just makes me feel sick to my stomach. Like, I don't know. First thoughts you have?
Okay. First thoughts are if you have a society with that strict of rules and that I don't even where everyone is told what to do to the point of you break this law, you die. Yeah, it may take away some of the problems, but you're creating so many more problems on individual levels.
Well,
If you're not allowed to question, you're not allowed to think for yourself. It's just this is
to
what you
claim
will
that
believe.
they're happier. Like he specifically said, like, don't come at me because they're happier. I'm like, I would have told you I was happy as a Mormon. Now I'm very unhappy with the life that I was like living because I wasn't living for me, and I see negative things that came for me from being indoctrinated in that way and not knowing how to speak for myself, and not understanding what it is to like live for yourself without the guise of like any moral code given to you because you believe in God or something like that. What I like, my initial thoughts were like, I see what he sees as valuable in that scenario, and I see it as valuable too. My difference is seeing through my lens as a woman who doesn't want to be that, who doesn't want to be the mom with a lot of kids. Like, I have 3 kids. That's enough. That is a lot of kids. Like, and I love my children. I think I could have been happy without children. I couldn't be happy now without children because now they are my life and I would just die if anything ever happened. Yeah, exactly. Now I know them and I love them. But like, I know a lot of women who are completely fulfilled outside of that. Like, that's not necessary for us to be fulfilled, but for a society to work, you need a certain balance and a home and stuff. And in his mind, it has to be a man at the lead. And in my mind, it could just be whoever fit that role personally. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
we could still have that type of society if we had an economic system that allowed people to live well with only one person working, and made it so that a lot of the things like education and just all your basic needs were met, so that you could have one person working in a household, and it was more desirable to have children because you were giving them a good life and you knew that they were going to be taken care of. That is
Mhm.
what I see valuable about that. But the only way he can see it is by taking away our rights, you know?
Taking away your
Versus I'm like,
personal autonomy, just
yeah,
your
I get what you want. You want us like I think Islam, I guess it sounds like they're kind of living in harsher 1950s America, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I
Because a lot of
remember.
people were happy then and very happy in their roles. Granted, I think a lot of them were drinking too and had their issues, but you could actually survive with one person working and still take
Well,
a vacation here or there. You know what I mean?
uh-huh. And in your like idyllic 19 um I guess what we have to compare it to is like the 1950s, where it was like from the outside looking in, the idyllic life. Everybody
Yes.
lived in these little matching houses, and you got
Mhm.
the mom in the floofy dress making
Mhm.
peanut butter sandwiches for her little, you know, clean little children. And the husband comes home at 5, and there's dinner on the table. And, Leave It to Beaver was awesome.
Yeah.
But when you talk to people individually, man, there was a lot of problems.
Yeah.
There was, if you were looking for the idyllic life from the outside looking in, yeah, everybody having these super strict rules and these super strict um, parts they have to play,
Yeah, and you hear about all the people
that's
doing
fine.
things behind the scene to cover up the unwanted pregnancies, or when somebody is
Mhm.
is coming out as gay and they're like, "No, you gotta pray that away. Like that's unacceptable." Like people aren't allowed to be
Yeah,
whoever they are. They're assigned a role and forced to fill it. And while some do, I'm sure thoroughly enjoy it because maybe they're just happy in that situation, and I can't deny them that, and
yeah,
I wouldn't, but to force it on everyone
doesn't
when it
work.
doesn't apply to everyone, like going back to those type of ideals, because he's like, he says he's a Christian and then he just completely like shits on Christians, like saying
Yeah.
you're and I mean, I don't know, like I don't understand his, it's like I understand his appeal and I also don't at all, you know what I
hmm
mean,
Well,
like
he
he's
mixes in a
getting the
little bits
wrong
of.
points, like you said
hmm
earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's mixing in little bits of, oh yeah, that makes sense, with you're barking up the wrong tree, man. Like, um, I don't know. I don't know. Um, Several years ago, I was reading this news article on a photographer, and he was taking pictures of women who wear the full burqas, right?
Hmm.
I think I'm using the right terminology, but if I'm not, somebody tell me. Anyway, full burqa where they have like the hat and everything,
Hmm.
full face is covered. They have a tiny little eye slit, and
Yeah.
everything down to the floor is completely covered. And as he was walking away, the photographer saw the bottom of her foot. He like took a picture of her walking away and seeing the bottom of her foot.
Mhm.
And that picture had such a huge impact on me. Like, um, growing up religious, not that religion, but religious where there were like strict rules that you were to follow.
Mhm.
I understand a little bit of what it means to, think you're doing it for the right reasons and thinking you're doing it for religious reasons and to hold on to those things really tightly.
Mhm.
But when I look at that woman walking away and only her bare foot, I'm like, what does she get to show the world that she is? Because what you see is this woman who is property of somebody else, and that's that's the best that she gets to be. But
That's
she
the
doesn't get to
extent
show
of her
anybody.
existence, yeah.
She doesn't get to show a personality. She doesn't get to show, what she's capable of. She's just this shadow. And for anybody to be told that that's their life and that's what God wants them to be, whoever God is, is this shadow of a human being whose only sole purpose is to fulfill the needs of some guy, or
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense at all.
No, it made
Anyway.
sense. And like, I know there's always going to be the people who are like, no, I'm happy doing it. And it's like, that's fine. That's fine. You're happy doing it.
Mhm.
But when your rule holds religion, like when your religion holds rules, like where the punishment can be very, very harsh,
Death?
then you're not
Yeah.
allowed freedom. You're not, you know what I mean? Like, because
Mhm.
it's just not possible.
No, and it's very sad. We
Yeah.
only get this
But I
one
mean,
life, and you got to decide.
yeah, and then I'm here to kind of talk about him, not like
Yeah.
them. Like I think it's beautiful to like have belief in something in a way, because I remember how happy I actually was being blissfully ignorant for a long time, but it wasn't maintainable. The blissful ignorance is just not maintainable. It's like you need to, that's almost like childhood, and then like
Mhm.
I didn't actually start growing up until I no longer held on to like beliefs that I had been told about anything.
When I first started backing away from religion a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I had this image in my head of like this bird in a cage. And a bird in a cage, it can be a huge cage, and it can be so beautiful, and you can have all the food and all the water and all the things in this cage, but it's still a cage. And if a free bird came to talk to this bird in a cage,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'd be like, yeah, it's more dangerous out there. You definitely have to be more self-aware. You have to understand what it is you're doing.
But you do
But
what you want for you.
there's no comparison. Like no bird that has tasted freedom would be like, yeah, put me back in the cage. Or maybe they would, but very
That's for the
few.
individual bird to decide.
Yes, exactly. I think me personally, tasting freedom, man, I want to fly.
Yeah.
But
I just
that's
want to live
different.
without any of the judgments that we place on ourselves because of what we were told we were supposed to be. Because those judgments are heavy and they just make life less fun, honestly.
Mhm,
You know, like once you
mhm.
don't care anymore.
And listening to people like this Tate guy
Don't care was not the right
feels
word.
like what?
Sorry, I just was correcting myself.
Oh,
You go
okay.
on. My bad.
No, but listening to this Tate guy feels like the cage. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like he keeps referring to himself as this high value male, and he's this high value man, and it doesn't ring true. I
Yeah,
mean,
like
it's great.
if
Um,
if that's what women want, you say that's what women want, we would want you. Guess what? I don't want that. I don't
and
want that.
maybe there are women that
I'm
want that, and
sure
if
there
that's
are.
what
I'm
he wants
sure
to
he
be,
has fans,
I
but
am great.
that's not all of us.
No, no,
Oh.
and it makes me laugh when he's like, "I'm high value male. I'm a high value male," because um, I'm a little biased, but my husband, right? I would say my husband is in the top 1% of like naturally manly men, right? And he's you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say he's like unintentionally intimidating sometimes.
He's a huge dude. I mean,
He's a big
he's
guy.
a big dude.
And
Like an insurance company wasn't going to be able to like said he was like morbidly obese, right? But then like the
but he
insurance
was
injector came out and was like, no, I don't think so. You're just a gigantic human.
yeah. And like when he's had a few guys like make comments. I remember one that he was at their house, and um the husband had come home from work, and the wife had just like a super busy day, lots of kids playing around. And so my husband was helping with the dishes, and the husband comes in, he's like, "Why are you doing that? That's women's work." And the feeling that he got, the like, wait a minute, hold the phone. Like, no, this my high value man
Yeah.
doesn't have to, you know, put on
He
these
can
big
take
airs like,
yeah, no. He can take care of himself including helping with the dishes.
Yeah,
Like,
it
that's
has
just
nothing
part
to
of
do with.
taking care of your fucking house. If you're not
Mhm.
part of that, get out of my house. Like, I'm not here
Yeah.
to be anybody's mother. And guess what? That's why marriages die sometimes, because nobody wants to fuck their mom. Okay? No one wants to fuck someone who they're cleaning up after and taking care of. It becomes a chore. So stay active and a participant in your
Mhm.
life, taking care of things like the dishes. Like, that is a high value man. Just someone who takes
Yeah.
care of his own life. Like, do the dishes need to be done? Like, I shouldn't have to tell you. Like, if you can look at the house, like, we all work, we all take care of things, like, I know it
Well, and
is
it makes me
because
wanna work harder for
yeah,
him, like.
yeah. And we work, like, I work outside of the home. So, like, there's a certain amount of stuff there where it's like, that just wouldn't even make sense anyways. And
Yeah,
then back to his thing about the whole, it needs to be a man at the top and a woman at the bottom. Like, our dynamic in my family,
doesn't
Anthony,
work like that.
yeah, he does not do as well in social situations as I do, and that includes working. And, like, like, I think he could totally take over all the home things, no problem, but it's harder for him to, like, go out. He still is the breadwinner just because he can
Yeah.
work from home with his position and stuff like that. But say one of us had to stay home and the other one, like, and it was just in a world where we had decided things based off of what we were and who we were and not the roles we were going to play, like, I
Mhm.
would have been the one going for the higher paid position. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
knowing that I was going to be the one to keep working, like, which totally could have been fine, except for that we prepared ourselves for roles we were told to fill. And now we're sitting here
Yep.
like, damn it, like that's not our dynamic, but we make it work because we both work and then we both do stuff at home, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, broad generalizations like this Tate dude is making don't
Yeah,
allow for individual personalities. They
yeah,
they allow for one type of guy and one type of woman, and that's not the case, man. And
yeah.
there's there's as
And
many different personalities that there are people.
yeah, and I worry about, like, hearing that a bunch of, like, young dudes are listening to him and, like, taking stock in what he's saying. I can see a lot of them being upset right now because, like, people are allowed to be who they are, so maybe there's less girls in the pool for them to, like, be going after if they are into girls or something like that. And
Mhm.
maybe some of them need to, like, be more honest with themselves, like, those kids who are listening to it, like, you think you need a girl, like, and be a high value man, like, do you even like girls? This is the thing I was talking about the other day. Like, when you don't want to hang out with girls, you don't want to have conversations with them. Like, they just kind of annoy you. You just want to sleep with them. You don't like girls.
No.
You know what I mean? Sometimes, like you think you want one, you think you need one as like a status or something, but like, we're just human beings. So if you're like,
Mhm.
if you can't find a girl that, like, you can have a conversation with and, like, actually see as human, like,
You'll just miss the whole point.
exactly. And there's so many guys that just, it feels like they feel like they're not fulfilled because they don't have a girl, and it's like, do you want to hang out with girls? Like, do you have things in common with them? Why don't you go do things that girls like to do? Maybe you would realize you actually liked doing some of those things, and the only reason you didn't do it is because you were told that's not what a guy does,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Well, and his I don't know. He talks a lot about how if he's in a relationship with a woman, she needs to know that he's going to go out and be with other women, and um that's just who he is, because any man who's honest with himself would
Oh,
want more
and if
females.
if he has a female, then she should be okay with, I agree, she should be okay with that, because I think there are people who are that way. I've seen
Yeah,
things on, like, I've known people who had, like, multiple partners, and that
polyamorous,
was
and yeah,
exactly, and
but
that was
everybody
their
has to be in
thing.
on it and
Exactly. So I'm
has to
like,
have the
fine,
understanding.
fine for you, just like for you, because I wouldn't limit him in the way that
Mhm.
he wants to live his life as long as he's not hurting other people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so sure, if you're being honest with the woman, but you can't expect some woman to just be happy with that. Like,
Yeah.
if Anthony came to me and said, you know what, I'm just not sexually fulfilled and I want to sleep with other, like, women, I think, like, maybe that would be what's exciting for me. I'd be like, okay, like, I will definitely be fucking other dudes then. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's
it
not a
wouldn't be
one-sided
like,
thing.
oh, look, okay, sure, because you're the man, you get to decide. I'd be like, okay, so if, like, we're opening
Mhm.
up that aspect of this, it, like, I am not anybody who is not mine. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
but
I belong to
I
me.
belong to me. And if that's the standard you set for yourself, then that will be the standard that I set for myself. You know?
Mhm.
Like,
Or
you just
I
have
get
to
to look
be,
at my life and see what I want it to be, and if that works with my life, great, and if it doesn't, then that's my choice.
yeah,
And
exactly.
he's saying that, he says that absolutely the woman is faithful to one man and the man can go out.
Yeah, and that's
And
to protect their fragile manhood. He like is nothing without that, it seems like. You know what I mean? If he's not,
mhm,
but he's nothing. Like, give me some substance,
substance.
you know? Like, and like
Mhm.
I said, I don't think he's a dumb guy. I see where he's
Oh, he's
coming from,
really
but
smart.
he's just holding on. He just holds value for like like something that I just deem to be purely animalistic, like almost unevolved. Like, you haven't
Mhm.
evolved past the point of needing to be dominant or something. Like, we work better as a cohesive group. The reason why women humans evolved, I think there was something where it was like when like humans first, like, I can't remember what it was, but it was something about they found a healed femur, and
Oh,
that
yeah,
meant
yeah,
we
yeah.
started working cohesively. Because like
The first
alone,
mhm,
we died, but with some, because like an animal breaks a leg, it's a death sentence. It's the same thing with like a human, because then you can't outrun the prey or whatever. But once they joined together and kept each other alive, and like it was better.
mhm. Yeah. Genuine care for another human being is a massive part of life, and if you miss out on that, then you're missing out on everything. From my point of view, everything. But my point of view is not the only one that matters, and
Exactly.
my way of
Your
living is
point of
not.
view is what matters to you, and that's why
Mhm,
being behind anything that would inflict some one person's set of rules or morals on like the general population just
mhm.
can't, like, no. That just can't be a thing. That doesn't work. You can't tell
Yeah.
me people will be happy in that. Like, there's no version of heaven that's the same for every single person. There's no version of what life is here on earth that's perfect for every, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
everybody's so freaking different and live like, I mean, Andrew Tate literally like doesn't even, he's not in my reality. Like, he lives my reality in this little moment right here, but like
Mhm.
day to day, he's not in my like
Doesn't
reality.
even ping
You
on
know,
the
he doesn't
radar.
even, yeah. Like,
Mhm.
but if you start speaking and saying things that could um get people to start acting or voting in a
Certain
direction
ways.
that would take women back, like
I
like
don't think
that.
women would stand for that. I wouldn't.
I really hope I
Like,
wouldn't. No. But look, we just stood for Roe v. Wade being turned over. We stood for it because a lot of
you
women were
stood and
like,
took it, huh?
because it's like, because it's murder, and I think, and it's like, okay, like, I just hope you're in a position one day where you're forced to make a decision for yourself that you're not allowed to make. That's what I wish for all of them. All right.
It's
I don't
it's
really.
rough.
I don't really, but it's just like,
No, but it would help the understanding.
yeah.
It would educate people like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's why people need to be able to choose for themselves. I get
Yes.
it now. I
That is
understand."
why I said in one of our earliest podcasts, remember the one I said that empathy is not real?
Yeah.
Because people literally cannot see what they haven't seen or whatever. They can only imagine what it would be through their eyes. And
Mhm.
everybody's reality is so different that, like, however you imagine that to be, you're wrong because it's somebody else's reality.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Anyways.
one last thing on this
Yeah.
this Tate guy he was talking about depression
Yeah.
and how it's not real. He says depression is not real. You can be depressed for a moment, but to have depression is not a real thing. And he makes some good points. However, I think medical professionals would
Well,
also have some
I
rebuttals for
I
him.
could tell you a
So,
personal story regarding anxiety, and anxiety
yeah,
and depression are pretty much like, kind of, they go hand in hand.
hand in
They're
hand.
kind of the same. They're kind of, where I was told, like, if you have one, you have the other. I don't know. It's just, they're very interlinked. So I kind of used to
Yes.
think that too about anxiety. And the funniest part is I'm one of the most anxious people on the face of the planet. Like I'm like OG like anxiety. Like I was an anxiety case as a kid. Like they studied me
Yeah.
kind, like I saw doctors about it and I was at the emergency room a lot. And I did have some big things happen. I had a tumor in my head that had to be
Forgot
removed.
about that.
Yeah, and I had seizures and I had I was living situation where I was abused by somebody, and then so there was a lot of stressful stuff going on with me too,
Mhm.
but I tied all my anxiety to like health things. You know what I mean? Like I literally would feel like I couldn't breathe or like I was having a heart attack. And I'd end up at the hospital. And my parents even there were some times where they would give me paper bags when they were leaving so I could hyperventilate into it. Because when they were leaving the house, I would get so anxious. So I was like very anxious. So I knew I was an anxious kid. I very much knew it, but I grew up and so I think actually I was around 9 when I got taken to the emergency room and a doctor said something to me that like really like resonated somehow with my 9-year-old head and I was able to like reason with it and then like come up with a coping skill. He said, "Rachel, you know that when you have an anxiety attack and you think you're having something, you can actually cause that thing to happen, but it's worse because it causes scar tissue." And in my head, I was like, okay, so my anxious feeling of a heart attack is literally worse than a real heart attack. So if I think I'm having a heart attack, I just breathe and wait because it's either anxiety or I'm dying and there's nothing I can do about it. And I know that's kind of sick and twisted in a way, but it was like that there was the reality of it. So I have for
Yeah.
like most of my life still lived with this. And I would get I would have times where I was like really gassy and I wouldn't understand. It was like my chest just like hurt. And I thought I would give myself literal like heart attack like sensations just from stress, not realizing that I was doing it. And I would
Mhm.
go through this and just kind of deal with it. And I would go to the doctor and occasionally like other doctors later in life or whatever, they would just say again, "Oh, it's an anxiety attack." And I was like, "Oh, I have those sometimes." So I believed that like anxiety attacks existed, but like anxiety, I didn't understand that anxiety was just like a condition that existed. So I was never put on any type of control meds until after Anthony was already diagnosed as bipolar. So like
Yeah.
I spiraled down really, really low with like trying to be there for him and stuff and being as anxious as I was myself, but never actually treating it because like I thought because I could deal with my anxiety and I'd been through some real shit that when other people had anxiety, it wasn't real almost. I was like I'm dying. Like you know what I mean? And now I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I just I have anxiety. Not I had an anxiety attack. I have anxiety. And now I take an anxiety med and use weed and and I feel like I'm physically dying less. And that's great because
That's
see, I
good.
could deal with it. And so I
98%
thought that
less
made me
deaths.
strong. Yeah. And sometimes it still happens and I still have to be like all of a sudden I'll be like I feel like it's hard to breathe right now. And I'll still in my stomach and my chest or anything. It's like there'll be like a glimmer of like an aura in my mouth, like a taste or an aura, and I'll just be like, I'm gonna have a seizure. Then I'm like, wait a minute, okay, you haven't had a seizure since you were 12. And I have to sit there and like internally, like, because my body, I don't want it to react. It reacts
Just
immediately.
does.
It reacts like, well, here's your heart attack.
Mhm.
But I know it's not real. But also my body, like the physical reaction, I don't get a control. So I just have to mentally
Mhm.
breathe through it and then just be like, all right, so it's either um it's anxiety or I'm dying a heart attack and there's nothing I can do about it. So I
So
still
for
believe
someone to come and say, "Hey, you
that
don't
doesn't
have
exist
anxiety." It
or
doesn't.
depression doesn't
Yeah.
exist. Like I can get why you might think that because like you're strong and you've made it through things. So everybody can. But guess what?
Mhm. It's not helpful.
No.
Your
Uh,
your view here, not helpful.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyways.
Well, I'm glad that we're on the same boat with this guy because I think
Oh,
he's
can you
easy to
imagine
hate.
if you were like, let's talk about him? I was like, oh my God, I love him.
Aw, so right.
How would you have
So right.
reacted?
I should have got his coffee. No, the first video I saw of him was he was like, "Hey, listen, if I'm gonna buy this house and let you live in it, and if, somebody breaks in the middle of the night, I'm gonna have to be the one to go confront this guy. Then when I say make me a coffee, you better make me a coffee."
Well,
And
I mean, I guess his woman can choose to be that for him.
yeah,
And I feel bad for the
right?
women who do it, but if they're happy with it, more power to you.
Yeah. Well, you think
But
two
I hate
scenarios.
you.
You think of this dude that's like, yeah, this dude that's like, I pay for this house and all of your crap. Make me a dang coffee. And you think of the guy that comes home and he's like, dude, I'm really tired. Is there any way you'd make me a coffee? It's like
Yeah,
the
of
second
course.
guy,
Yeah.
I would make coffee for, and I would put little whipped cream smiley faces on it, and I would I would go out of my way for that guy. But the guy that's
Uh-huh.
like, you'll do it, biatch, because I said to. It's like, well then,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like you immediately want to be like, no,
Yeah. And then once they're
just
old
butt
enough
heads.
or they've had enough of it that they realize they don't want it anymore, they're stuck in a marriage that they can't get out of and they don't work because their husband controls everything. So they can't
And
go
there'll be
out of it anymore because they don't have the means to. Like
there's
making
a
sure
lack
that
of
all women are
respect.
below makes it so women can't get out of bad situations. And like it leads to so many things.
Hmm. Yeah. So, you know, be who you are, do what you got to do.
But
You be you, I
please try
guess.
to see through the lens of some women who
I am I am not sorry that my husband is not that way.
me
I,
neither. Oh my God. Like you dry me up, okay? Not like I'm your type anyways, but like there's nothing.
there is a huge
There's a
difference.
negative.
I I would like to think that there's a huge difference in the love you get from a woman or the sex, the um I was gonna say obedience. That is so wrong. Um
Respect. Actual
the sex,
respect.
the actual respect, the
Yeah, yeah,
genuine
yeah.
care that comes from somebody who like respects you back and there's a
Yeah.
mutual love there, as opposed to somebody who's like, this is how it will be and this is how you act,
Yeah.
and if not, you can leave. Massive difference.
Yeah. I want someone I can
Massive
like
difference.
I'm actually friends with, and I'm not friends with people who treat me like shit. And it sounds like he's treating them like shit.
Mhm. Sounds
So
like he needs somebody to come in and just absolutely treat him like shit. But like
I don't know. Or
that's
maybe he just needs someone he really loves that he doesn't want to be over and he wants to see her like make it or like just become everything she wants to be because he actually loves her and he wants what's best for her. Like I saw this thing and then I'll stop because I know we're kind of getting long, but um it was something about like a poll that they took people who were like kind of shifting their views, and one of the like groups that made a large shift following Roe v. Wade was dads
really,
that shifted their views because it was like, hold on, my daughter's a human. But it was hard for them to see their own wife as a human. You know what I mean? And I don't think they even
yeah,
realized that.
experience means everything.
Yeah.
Having the experience of having someone close to you who doesn't get to make those decisions
Hmm.
shines a big light, I think.
And just being a person who wants to feel like I'm in charge of my life and there's not something that tells me exactly, like I understand there's certain societal rules and I'm okay with being a good person, like I want that. I just want to be able to speak for myself and live for myself and choose someone that I get to live for myself alongside with instead of only for.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yes, I agree. Way to go. Fist bump.
Any final thoughts?
That's no, just the one I said before, that I'm glad I'm not married to him.
Yeah.
Um,
Ditto.
that would suck a lot.
Yeah. Thanks,
And I
Anthony, for being
wish him all
awesome.
the happiness in the world, but
Yeah.
not near me.
Yeah. No. All right. Well,
Yeah.
next time, well, I think it's your turn to pick next week, but then the week after that,
Okay.
maybe we could do that accountability one because now I got my mind kind of turning. I want to do like the dental one I was talking about, since that's all I can
Oh
really
yeah.
like speak to. You know what I mean? Like maybe I could teach a
Yep.
little something. You can
Mhm.
let me know if I teach you anything or not, or if you already knew it all.
Cool. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I can use an education.
Anyways, okay. Well, I'll talk to you later.
All right, Lilas. Always good to talk to you.
Lilas. Yes. Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.
Subscribe up there.
Subscribe.
There's a subscribe up there.
Okay.
Like the button.
Okay.